Good afternoon and welcome to SCSA's Toolbox Tuesday. My name is Justin Brooks, Safety Advisor for the SCSA. I'll be presenting today's Toolbox talk on all-terrain vehicles. Before I start the presentation, I just want to take a moment to discuss a few items before we get going. This presentation is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on Facebook and our YouTube channel. So if you're not following our social media accounts, make sure after this presentation you give this video a like and a share and follow our pages to keep up to date on safety in Saskatchewan. All right, here we go. All-terrain vehicles. So the dry season is upon us. It's time to have fun doing all those summer activities that we get so little time to do here in Canada, specifically Saskatchewan. One of those activities ties very closely to the workplace, and that is the use of ATVs or all-terrain vehicles. Today, we're going to take some time to discuss the safe use of ATVs, as well as some of the legislation. Legislative reference, I'll be using the All-Terrain Vehicles Act. This can be downloaded from the Government of Saskatchewan webpage. If you use all-terrain vehicles in the workplace, you're required to have access to these regulations just the same as you would the Occupational Act and Regulations 2020. The All-Terrain Vehicles Act goes through many different subjects, everything from operation on highways, insurance required, equipment, accidents, and many other subjects. We'll touch on a few of these. However, again, if you use ATVs in the workplace, you should be very familiar with these regulations. So let's start off with the definition of an ATV. When we look through this definition of an ATV, we can see it has two very important distinctions from regular motor vehicles. An ATV is designed primarily for the movement of people or goods on unprepared surfaces. Unlike vehicles, yes, even 4x4s, ATVs are designed for use in areas that have not been prepared for travel, like fields or ditches. These regulations also cover restricted use motorcycles, which are designed for player sport, not to be driven on highways. Mini bikes and all-terrain cycles are also governed by these regulations. The regulations also define what is not an ATV. This includes things like golf carts, snowmobiles, agricultural implements, or special mobile machines as defined in the Traffic Safety Act, or any vehicle that is required to be registered pursuant to the Traffic Safety Act. For more information about the Act, call SGI Customer Service Center toll-free at 1-844-855-2744. No driving age. You must be 16 years of age and hold a valid driver's license to drive an ATV on public land. If you don't have a driver's license, there are some rules that apply before you can drive an ATV on public land and cross roads, but not drive on roads. You must be 12 years of age or older and pass an approved ATV training course, or be supervised by someone who has held a driver's license continuously for the last 365 days. Your supervising rider can either be riding a different ATV or be on the same ATV as you, providing it is equipped to handle two persons. When we speak to training, it's very important that we follow the regulations. Private use, all that's required is a driver's license. For those without a driver's license, riders are required to be supervised by someone who has held their driver's license continuously for the last 365 days. Your supervising rider can either be riding a different ATV or be on the same ATV as you. However, it is important, again, to keep in mind that if you're operating a business that uses all-terrain vehicles, you need to follow the Occupational Health and Safety Regulations 2020. For example, in 3.8, training of workers, it states, training of workers. An employer shall ensure that a worker is trained in all matters that are necessary to protect the health and safety of a worker when the worker A begins work at a place of employment. And then it continues in 3.8.2F, the training required by subsection 1 must include any other matters that are necessary to ensure the health and safety of the worker while the worker is at work. This would most definitely include the use of all-terrain vehicles. So get your workers trained and ensure that training is documented properly by an approved agency. This is without a doubt the best thing you can do for your employees. Personal protective equipment. Now, always wear an approved motorcycle helmet and appropriate protective eyewear. It's the law when you're riding an ATV in public areas and recommended always. In 772AB, workers using all-terrain vehicles, snowmobiles, etc. Now, this is again within the Occupational Health and Safety Regulations 2020, not the All-Terrain Vehicles Act. It states an employer contractor shall ensure that every worker who is required or permitted to travel in or on an all-terrain vehicle, snowmobile, or towed conveyance is provided with and required to use approved protective headgear and approved eye and face protectors if the all-terrain vehicle, snowmobile, or towed conveyance does not have an enclosed cab. Although the regulations only state you are required to wear a helmet and eye protection, the use of gloves, long sleeve top or jacket, full-length trousers, and over-ankle boots are very important as well. Traffic rules. Driving an ATV in a way that is dangerous to the public and failing to remain at a collision, so like a hit and run, is illegal. When you're riding an ATV on public land, there are some rules of the road you need to follow. Keep to the right when approaching other vehicles. Pass other vehicles on the left. Signal turns when required. Stop for police. Yield to vehicles on your right and pedestrians. Maintain a safe following distance. Drive with due care and attention. Drive with consideration for other people. Maintain at least a 2-meter distance from the edge of the road. And travel in the same direction as traffic, especially when driving at night. Before crossing a road, bring the ATV to a complete stop. All passengers must get off the ATV and then yield to other vehicles and pedestrians, then cross by the most direct route. So, unsafe practices. When you're driving an ATV, use a buddy system. And remember, don't carry a passenger if your ATV isn't built for it. When driving an ATV, do not drive at an unsafe speed or over the speed limit. Now, on an ATV, that's a maximum of 80 kilometers an hour. Drive in highway medians, which are less than 50 meters in width. Drive at night if the headlights or rear lights are not working. Disturb, injure, or kill wildlife. Drive animals or birds towards hunters. It is important to note that purposely endangering wildlife can land you a charge under the wildlife regulations. We understand that accidents happen, but let's do our best to ensure that wildlife is left undisturbed. It's illegal to drive an ATV if you're impaired by alcohol or drugs, even on private property. It's also very dangerous for you, your passengers, and other riders. So if you're choosing to have a few drinks, let's just leave the keys inside the house for those ATVs. So where to drive an ATV? You can drive an ATV on Crown land and highway right-of-ways, designated snowmobile trails between April 16th and November 30th only. You can't ride on snowmobile trails between December 1st and April 15th. The snowmobiles are supposed to be there. The travel portion of a road or street in the following circumstances. So on a road or street authorized by local bylaw, on a road or street authorized by the Highway Traffic Board or HTB. When crossing a road or bridge, of course, unless prohibited by a local bylaw or the HTB. Drive an ATV on private land, you need permission from the landowner or persons living on the land. If you're not sure if the land is owned by the Crown or privately, the government of Saskatchewan has a Crown Land Viewer to look up which sections of land are owned privately or by the Crown. Make sure you know where you will be operating. I didn't know is not a valid excuse for trespassing and running the risk of ruining someone's property. Just the same as it's not an excuse when dealing with LRWS when you are in contravention of the regulations. So keep that in mind. In some cases, the Highway Traffic Board and or your local municipality may not allow ATVs to be driven on untraveled portions of highways. So for example, ditches or medians, Crown land, private or municipal land. Look for signs saying ATVs are allowed or restricted, or just make a phone call and contact your local municipality to check. So using an ATV at work can be just like any other tool. It can make the job much easier, quicker, and much more safe. If your workers are trained to use, supervise until deemed competent, and you ensure they follow all safe work practices and applicable laws. Having said that, just like any other tool you might find on the job site, they can also be extremely dangerous for untrained, irresponsible people. This concludes our SCSA Toolbox Tuesday. I'd like to take a moment to thank all of you. By watching and participating in these discussions, we're all working together in making Saskatchewan the safest construction environment in Canada. Make sure you tune in next week for Toolbox Tuesday at 10 a.m. and our Wednesday webinars, which are on the first Wednesday of every month at noon. I also want to remind everyone that we have all our presentations available on our YouTube channel. These are a great resource for training and toolbox talks, especially if, like us, you're doing your meetings online. Remember to like and share this video and follow us on all social media platforms. Have a great day, everyone. Work safe.